So today we'll be asking the question which many of us have been asking recently. Should you attend an Ivy League school or state university? In the study, we'll be comparing Penn State and Princeton University. Penn State representing the state university and Princeton the Ivy League university. For our hypothesis, we believe that if you go to Princeton University, you would have higher earnings and a more successful career than going to a state university. We'll first start by looking at some background information and studies done in the past. One in particular, a Princeton economics professor Alan Krueger and mathematician Stacey Dale of Mathematica Policy Research. They compared the earnings from graduate students who attended Princeton and PSU. They showed that the SAT scores average for verbal and mathematics differed between two schools. Princeton having an average of 720 to 785 and Penn State University 580 to 680. So in the study they blocked out this effect by only looking at students who were accepted into both universities. Through their study, they found that there were no significant difference for earnings between the students graduating from Princeton and PSU. Going into our dataset, we find the average of each student's math and verbal SAT scores, the student's annual earnings 10 years after graduating, whether the student was accepted at Princeton, Penn State or both schools, and the school the student attended. To the right, I give a visualization of the Excel sheet showing all of our columns and rows. First, we give a visualization of the SAT scores for students from Princeton and Penn State University, and we show that Princeton is a higher number. Next, we look at the average earnings for students that graduated after 10 years from Princeton and Penn State University. As you can see, Princeton has a higher average earnings. This means that if you go to Princeton, you have a better chance of earning more money. In the next part of our study, we follow the same method as Krueger and Dale. We only look at the students who were accepted into both universities and we find their SAT score averages. We find that Princeton has 699 and Penn State University 692. This is relatively similar and this means we block out the effect of the SAT score. So after blocking out the SAT scores, we find that Penn State University actually has a higher earnings for graduates than Princeton University. This contradicts our original hypothesis, and this means that it would be a better option to go and attend Penn State University. Other limitations and factors from our study is that Princeton is ranked number 1 nationally and Penn State number 63. Some people might want to go to Princeton for a better education, regardless of whether they will make more earnings. Princeton's also ranked number 25 in the FBC, and Penn State ranked number 7 in the FBS, which people might prefer Penn State because they have a better football program. And then something that's a very important factor for myself is the cost. Princeton is way more expensive than Penn State University, especially if you are a Pennsylvania resident. And these factors are very important to consider, and it's not always just about the earnings we make after school. And we end off with my last slide, just some of the bibliography and where I got my information from.